is a beautiful thing. It grows to the quiver of a fife that sings. I can take it with the wave of my hand and place it upon my music stand. Such a beautiful thing. Such a beautiful thing.
We're here, and the title of my talk today is Riding the Waves of Sinlessness. And it's funny, I came up with this idea of the talk, or the Holy Spirit inspired me with this talk, in part because one of the happiest times of my life was when I was younger. And I guess I should say happiest times of my childhood when I was younger. And we would take our vacations or day trips to the shore. Now, I grew up in New Jersey, so this was sometimes referred to as the Jersey Shore. I'm from South Jersey. I think that was more of a North Jersey thing. And it was portrayed on, I think, a famous television show on MTV called The Jersey Shore. But I felt that show was very kind of stereotypical of one group, and I never really identified with that piece of things. But anyway, my experience of as I said, of going to the beaches was a really good time. The beaches that we went to more often than not were included South Jersey beaches like Wildwood, Ocean City, and the one we mostly went to was a beach at the southernmost point of New Jersey, which was called Cape May. And we went there the most because my grandparents bought a trailer down there in this trailer park. And so we could go down there on the weekends and actually spend, times there as well. Now, what was it about the beach that we enjoyed as kids? Well, the first thing is I just noticed when we all went on vacation, it seemed like everybody in the family, particularly the adults, just got calmer. I don't know if it was the ocean air or if it was being away from the regular rigors of the demanding work life, but everybody seemed to chill out. And I actually don't remember any arguing going on when we went to the beach. So it was a really cool experience. And some of the things that I remember that were really fun about the beach included like the boardwalks. We would go on the boardwalks and down the shore. Then actually in some of the boardwalks at night, the ocean would actually come under the boardwalk. So you could be walking on the boardwalk and underneath you could hear the ocean. But there was all kinds of rides that we would go on. And at that point in time, we were fearless, right? We would go on any ride that was there, except one ride I never wanted to go on was the Salt and Pepper Shaker. But the roller coasters we went on, and the teacups and all the rest of these things we would all go on. There was lots of games you could play, all these games that you never won. They were total ripoffs, but we had fun. We had fun, oftentimes it was throwing a ball at some kind of milk, these iron kind of milk bottles that they would have, and you're supposed to knock them all over in one shot, and you would win the big stuffed animal. So there was, a lot of these things that we did that were a lot of fun. I can remember also our grandparents. It was kind of maybe typical of grandparents' experience. We always ate more ice cream when my grandparents were around. So it seemed to be more. More, I guess, portioned when I was with my parents. But with the grandparents, we ate a lot of ice cream. So it was a lot of fun. But as I look back on it, the experience that I enjoyed most as kind of a young boy was the experience of body surfing, actually going into the ocean and riding waves. And my best memories were in Cape May, New Jersey. Now, why is this? Well, because in Cape May, at the southernmost point, it was kind of it. They had some pretty rugged waves. They had some good size waves. And there was a couple of reasons for this. One of the reasons I think is because of the cross currents. So it was oftentimes going in there pretty rough water. So not only did you have the typical undertow that would be part of it, but you also had the currents pushing you oftentimes closer to the jetty, to the point where they had to put up a rope and to keep you from getting too close to the jetty. And at times I remember me and my friends, or just myself and my brother, we would actually, get on that rope so we could pull ourselves back out far enough so we could catch the waves coming in. So I was thinking about this, and I was like, why did I enjoy this so much? And some of it is just like it was important because you had to have a certain skill. So one of the prerequisites for body surfing is you had to know how to swim. And so I was kind of at that time, when I was growing up, you went outside a lot. And in our neighborhood, there must have been 100 kids. So we did every physical activity you could imagine. We'd go to the woods, we'd go play, we could have spontaneous games, athletic games. We would just, call one another up, and we'd be at the corner, and then we'd be at the school fields, and we'd be playing baseball. All kinds of things like that. We would do these things spontaneously. One of the reasons that I got many of my broken bones and whatnot growing up was doing this kind of unsanctioned activities. But you need the skill when you're going out into the rough waters of the ocean. But I think I liked it because it tested my limits. As a young kid, I did feel in the ocean, I felt kind of invincible. And I enjoyed the struggle against those cross currents, those undertows, and trying to catch the wave. And what I noticed about this process is that you really had to stick with it. The first thing you had to do is you had to have the courage to get in the water. Now, the water, besides being kind of rough, the water is also a little bit colder than your body temperature. It's about 70 to 75 degrees. So you had to be able to take the plunge, get in there, take the plunge. The other thing I noticed is you needed stamina, because you can go in there and, it took a while not only to, get used to the water, but also to get yourself into the flow where you could actually catch the wave. So you needed stamina, you needed the ability to courage to take the dive, and you also needed to persevere. Now, I'm not a surfer like using surfboards, right? But from talking with friends of mine who do surf, I know that a lot of times it takes perseverance, because it takes a while to really catch the wave, so you really have to be able to persevere, try to catch the wave. There's no guarantee you're going to catch the wave. The last quality I think that comes into body surfing is timing. Now, what did I say? Catching the wave. So catching the wave, you have to be able to time when the wave is going to break. And you have to be able to catch it at the right point. Now, if you don't catch it at the right point, you're either going to just not be able to catch it and you'll be behind the wave. But if you get too much in front of the wave, you're going to get smashed, okay? And sometimes the smash is not so bad, and sometimes the wipeout is pretty bad. If you're talking about doing this in Cape May when it's a rough day, you get slammed to the bottom. And when you're young, you don't think too much about it, but it's quite tiring. So this was all part of the process. But what I noticed is that after a while, it was an exhilarating process that you eventually got in the flow. You would eventually get in the flow, and somehow, as you got your timing, as you persevered, you would start catching more and more waves. And so we really, myself and my friends and like my brother, we really enjoyed it, if we could stay out there for a while and then we can catch all these rides. It was a really, really great experience. Now, I liken this to the process of forgiveness, or what some might call the miracle process. And lately I've been thinking about, off, I've had off from work for about 5 or 6 weeks now. And so I've had a little bit more time. And one of the areas that I've been trying to really work on is this process of forgiveness and getting into the flow of forgiveness. And I was thinking about it, and I think it's very similar to the process of body surfing. Today in the reading that Reverend Rudy so nicely read, there is this quote: "Sin has no place in heaven, where its results are alien and can no more enter than can enter their source. And therein lies your need to see your brother sinless. In him is heaven." And, I've been really thinking about this experience that more and more as I go about my study in A Course in Miracles, I've noticed that how I'm perceiving my brothers, how I'm perceiving my sisters, is really impacting the quality of my state of mind. And so for me, the object is, it's frankly sometimes easier to stay in my egoic perception of my brothers as separate. There's lots of, what Sigmund Freud would have called defense mechanisms that help me with that. I can judge them and keep them separate from me, and then I don't have to interact with them. I can sometimes just tell them what they want to hear and go on my merry way, so I don't have to deal with it, right? Something that I can do. I can avoid them in person or in my mind. I can criticize them and make them wrong. And it's especially easy for me to do that for people who have different views than myself. Yesterday I went out and met some friends for breakfast. And one of my friends was expressing his extreme dislike of a person who I'm supporting more recently. And they brought up Marianne Williamson, who I'm not as much supporting, expecting me, because I'm a Course in Miracles student, to support Marianne Williamson. And I didn't. I didn't say who I supported, because I was guided, like literally I got the guidance: Peter, don't tell this person who you're supporting. I got that guide. So I didn't. But I also didn't support Marianne Williamson because she's a Course in Miracles teacher. Now that was a miracle for me, because, there's a part of me that wants to avoid the conflict and part of me wants to be happy. And what's interesting is a short while later, he got up and left. And I think part of it was because I didn't say anything other than the fact. And I said, well, I think Marianne's presidential campaign is imploding right now, because I get emails from her. I used to be, the previous election, I did give her money. So I got things with it. So, but he went away, but I didn't feel bad because I didn't attack him. I just was reporting the facts from her own email. She sent out an email saying that, that her campaign was really struggling and they may be running out of money. So I kind of passed, that kind of information on. So what did I do? Well, I just had the courage to jump in the water. at that point, I had the courage to jump in the water. I didn't jump in with judgment. I just kind of reported the facts. And intuitively, he sensed that we weren't jiving. And it was hard for my brother to listen to that. So it was kind of part of the process. Now, I didn't feel bad. I didn't feel angry. I didn't even feel attacked when he really nastily attacked the person that I supported. But, we have to remember a couple things. That we want to make sure that as part of the forgiveness process, we are not forgiving to destroy. Because that's the forgiveness process that the world wants you to adopt. And in the Course in Miracles says this. Course in Miracles says, forgiveness to destroy will overlook no sin, no crime, no guilt that it can find, and love. Dear to its heart is error, and mistakes loom large and grow and swell within its sight. It carefully picks out all evil things and overlooks the loving as a plague, a hateful thing of danger and of death. Forgiveness to destroy is death. Okay, so it says it very clearly. So now what does that forgiveness to destroy look like? Like, this brother of mine, I like him and I love him. I think he's a little pissed off at me, but I still love him. So I don't have to do this. But forgiveness to destroy means is that we see our brother as having done something wrong. We make it real. And this is, something that as part of the forgiveness, when we're surfing sinlessness, we are going to experience attacks. We are going to experience differences of opinion, and when we're surfing to try to find that right wave and how to respond to our brother or to our sister, we have to remember that for some people, that's their model. They need you to agree with them. They need you to be the projector which they attack. So what's our job? Our job is just to keep surfing. Our job is to find the right timing. Our job is to persevere with forgiveness. We cannot see like that. Okay, so like I have to look at my brother who kind of went after the guy I like in the current politics, and I just have to see him as well, maybe this is really what it says in the Course. It's my projection. He's showing me a part of my mind. So there's a part of me that this guy is kind of making, well, here he goes. The guy I'm supporting is making some waves, and he's establishing the party that I kind of identify with. And, and so if I see him with forgiveness, then I have forgiveness for myself. And that's really, really important. It's really important to keep this in mind. I think also another thing that we have to kind of take a look at is getting back to the basics of the Course. Now, when I say we have to, I'm talking about me. And this has really been on my mind lately, is this whole idea of special relationships. And the Course says there's many quotes in the Course, but there is this one quote that I like. So it says this: to believe that special relationships with special love can offer you salvation is the belief that separation is salvation, for it is the complete equality of the atonement in which salvation lies. So the complete equality atonement in which salvation lies. So in forgiveness, like body surfing, timing is everything. Okay, timing is really, really important. And so you have to kind of be aware of what's happening in your life. So this, like I said, this summer I've been off, so I've been thinking about these a little bit. And I'm like, currently I'm considered a single guy. I don't have any like primary relationships. Now, of course, I have many relationships, and you know, I feel like I'm fortunate. I have many good I feel like relationships that are healing. A lot of the people in my life are spiritual minded people, and they kind of they've practiced a course in miracles, or they have some level of spiritual awareness. So the quality feels good. But one thing I have noticed is that I don't currently in my script have like a primary partner. And I was thinking about that and just reflecting and asking Holy Spirit guidance. And Holy Spirit said, well, be like the body surfer and persevere, dude. You got to persevere and hang through whatever it is. You got to hang through. And that was one thing, that's Jesus being funny. But another thing that was communicated to me was you have to look at your fantasies. What are your fantasies as it relates to special relationships? And I was guided to see that and say, that and maybe another way to say it in a more relatable way is your expectations. Like, so sometimes what I find is that I have to be really honest with this. I get bored. I get bored after I meet people for a certain point in time, and this is really interesting. The people that seem, in a way, more compatible to me that I date, I get bored really quickly, and then I have kind of like this attraction to people that in a way, certain qualities they have are sexier. But I often find that, in terms of having a more sustaining relationship, it doesn't work as much. So, A Course in Miracles, talks about this. It talks about how we make things special and how we have special relationships. So, what I've gotten from the Holy Spirit is like, okay, you see this, you're aware of this, dive, jump in the water, this is your healing process, and, take the plunge. And so what do I have to do? Well, I have to really, apply forgiveness to the process, because, I see this pattern, and it's something that I can kind of work on. Now, as we know, we're Course in Miracles students. The obstacles to peace or the obstacles to love, it doesn't mean you have to have any particular type of special or primary relationship. But it is something that we as humans do. We do oftentimes have primary relationships, and a portion of the world does this. So it's like, okay, how do I work this miracle then? Like, how do I work this forgiveness process? And like for me, there are various ways which I try to do it, but I try to follow this method. The first thing is, like I said, the plunge in the water. You have to stop staying. You can't stay on the beach. You can't be on the beach. You got to get in the water. Okay? So you have to identify, like staying on the beach, it's staying with the ego. It's staying with what's comfortable. It's easy for me to sit in the sand, read my book, blah, blah, blah. Not that that's bad, it's not bad. It's okay. But you got to get in the water. So like for me, the first thing is stop believing with the ego. All right. Reverend Tony made reference to this earlier about in one of his healing passages this week about we have to stop believing with the ego. So that's the first thing, the first step. Jump in the water, stop believing with the ego. Now, once you stop believing with the ego, then what do you have to do? You have to start believing with the Holy Spirit. You got to turn it over to the Holy Spirit. You might feel a little uncomfortable. The water might be a little cold. The undertow may scare the shit out of you. Okay? But you stay in there. All right? Now I'm not telling you if the undertow is taking you out to the deep sea. But those of you that are experienced swimmers know the undertow's there. It's a little scary, but you can stay there. Okay, so you gotta stay there. You gotta say, "Hey, Holy Spirit, you know, this is scary, but I'm going to stay in there." And then you have to stop making it real. Okay, now, ever since I've been younger, when I was 9 years old or something, Jaws came out, and I saw that movie, and it was actually based nearby in Long Island. And yet, whenever I go in the water now, I have this idea, there could be a shark around. And, that'd be bad. I'm in the sharks, this is the shark's habitat, right? It's not really my habitat. So the shark has an advantage. And so it's fear. So then you encounter that, right? You encounter this fear of the unknown. And so in the case when I'm confronted with a fear, when I'm confronted with a relationship problem, fear comes about and some shark shows up, And so then what do I have to do? Well, at that point in time, I have to say, you know what? This fear is not real. I've been in the ocean thousands of times. I haven't had any sharks attack me. But sometimes the fear tells me they're going to attack me. So I have to just let go. I say there's no such thing as fear. Fear is not real. It's an illusion. I'm going through this illusion because God said I have, a trial, right? Lessons are trials that God would have me learn. So I have to learn this. And so I got to keep trying. I got to keep trying. I have to keep riding that wave. I have to keep engaged with all my relationships, and I have to do it until I get into the flow. And so I get into the flow. And so I do what I have to do. And I think a lot of times, when we're trying to get into the flow, it can be a challenge sometimes to think about, we aren't really bodies. We aren't really the personalities that we think we are. But we have to still attempt to ride the wave. We still have to go through the process, because in order to reach our awakening, in order to experience the miracle, in order to truly forgive, what we really need to do is keep trying to ride the wave. And eventually, we're going to catch that miracle wave. And we're going to be in the flow of miracles. And all of our healing needs are going to be met. And we're going to awaken. And we're going to see our brother as sinless. And we are going to be one with God, which is our natural state. So today, I hope all of you can catch a wave this summer in your own way. And I hope all of you can learn and practice true forgiveness. See your brother as sinless. See the world as healing. God bless. That's my talk for today.
A flower is a beautiful thing. It grows to the quiver of a fife that sings. I can take it with the wave of my hand and place it upon my music stand. Such a beautiful thing.